What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Show. I am your host, Rob Haytan. Joined with me are my two co-hosts, Ian Angelo and Seamus Zarling. Yo, guys, the C's come back big time on the New Orleans Pelicans, down as many as 17 points in that first quarter, but they were able to rally back at home as they pick up their 36th win of the season. The Celtics now are 36-11. Get that win back at home after falling short the other night in an embarrassing loss to the Clippers. Got so much to talk about, guys. However, before we get started, you know the deal. Let's get into the lead tracker tonight because this one was unfortunately a lot of Pelicans throughout this game. Again, the Pelicans led by as many as 17 points in this game. However, Boston was able to rally back a little bit in that third quarter push. However, New Orleans then extended the lead kind of back up to right around 9 points 11 points there. It's the beginning of the fourth, but it was all green after the midway point of the fourth quarter as Derek White had an absolute explosion of a night in that fourth quarter, leading the Celtics, really leading the comeback for the Seas tonight, guys, in what was a very, very great effort and a great fight towards the end for the Celtics. They bend, they did not break, guys. So, Seamus, you know the deal, man. Start us off, your initial thoughts, your reactions, your takeaways from tonight's win.
Oh my goodness. We came in here a couple of games ago and said, ooh, this one's going to be pretty hard to talk about when we come in after a win that's kind of a little lopsided in terms of pulling out the entire game. But the fourth quarter, come on, the fourth quarter is how we want to play all the time. And I'm so glad that we didn't see an entire game of ultimately bad play from the Celtics, because that is exactly what we saw the first three quarters of this game all throughout. It was 87-81 going into the fourth quarter, and the Celtics for most of this game looked completely discombobulated, both offensively and defensively, and also their effort and engagement in this game. This is the second straight game where the team's effort at home looks a little bit off. However, there's a silver lining in this game because of that fourth quarter. The Celtics in the fourth quarter turned the switch. They flipped the switch entirely. And I know with this team, we've said in recent years, they can't just flip the switch. They cannot just act like they can flip the switch. And that is the same with this team. However, their switch flipping ability we see on display tonight is certainly there. And it's when they're hitting shots and attacking with aggression. I thought the biggest difference in this game tonight down the stretch was the Celtics' ability to defensively cover the Pelicans better than they did the entire game, turned into points in transition, and also offensively. When they realized there was no backside help, the Celtics were attacking, whether it was Derek White, whether it was Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown had an opportunity as well. And the Pelicans, from that regard, completely fell off in this game. And it was a mix of the Celtics being ultra aggressive and the Pelicans playing like the Celtics did for the first three quarters of this game. The Celtics are surely lucky to pull this one out, but it's not as if they didn't play well to do it. And that is the silver lining, although they did not play their best game whatsoever.
Hell yeah. I mean, that was just a great win. Like you saw the lead tracker, the Celtics were looking dead in the water for most of this game. And, these are the games that you want to see out of a good team. Like, this is the wins you want to see out of your team. You want them to go out there. You want them, if they're down, just keep fighting, keep chipping away. And then when the time is right, make a run in the fourth quarter and win the ball game. And we were kind of talking about this as the game was going on. This was like the first time in 2 months that we've seen a good third quarter by the Celtics. Probably till the end, but the end of the third quarter wasn't great. But the beginning of it, they got off to a hot start in the beginning of the third quarter. And right into the fourth, I mean, what else can you say but Derek White? I mean, Derek White absolutely, for a guy that was shooting 1 of 7, and I know he shot 1 of 9 from the field at the time, and then 1 of 7 from 3. For a guy that was shooting that bad throughout the entire game to come out in the fourth quarter, shoot 5 for 5, 3 for 3 from 3, have 14 points as a whole, just absolutely crazy game from him. And of course, I mean, you can't not talk about Jason Tatum either.
I thought it was a much needed win. This was a team that, it came out 5 quarters straight at home, man. You stunk it up. They did not look good in that first quarter. They came out flat, and you're starting to think to yourself, oh boy, is this going to be a thing now? Are we entered that stage of that we've seen the past couple of years with the Celtics, where there's that stint of the season that, the 4-week stretch where they're just kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and you thought that for a second. And they were able to really, stay after it. And I thought that, again, with this team, I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it. They have to be high motor. They have to be high effort, high energy, because when they are playing with that effort and that energy, their talent level is so high in which that it's tough to beat a team with this much talent that's, exuding so much energy through over the course of 48 minutes. And I really thought that was the case tonight after a rough first quarter. And I don't think the energy wasn't necessarily there in the first quarter. I really do think defensively they were forcing New Orleans into some tough shots. The tough shots were falling. I think, when you're missing your 7'3" interior big man, Zion, you're going to have a tougher time with Zion. I think they were able to kind of get a hold of him later down in the stretch. But, after that first, they were really able to rally back. And it was something that, again, much needed win. And I thought there was a lot of individual positives you could pull from this, one of which being Drew Holiday, who, in my opinion, really kept the Celtics afloat. And you're seeing him become just more acclimated and more integrated and just more comfortable with this Celtics team. Because tonight, I keep saying it with this guy, it feels like every night is a better night for Drew. But again, when this guy is playing good basketball, the Celtics are at their best. He has been so key, and it is so obvious that when he's able to score the ball and when they're getting him open looks, that this team is playing at a much higher level. I mean, tonight, he had 20 points, man, and not just 20 points. The efficiency in which Drew Holiday is scoring the basketball is what's really making him difficult to defend because, again, your game plan entering the game isn't going to be the fifth option, fourth option, Drew Holiday averaging 14 points per game. It's not. It's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Derek White. So when the attention is really off of Drew Holiday, he really gets to kind of roam free offensively. He's going to get these phenomenal looks, and Boston is now finding him. That corner three that he is shooting around 60% from, which leads the NBA, has really become his hot spot now. 3 of 5 from behind the arc, 7-11 from the floor, over 60% from both the floor and the three-point line tonight for Drew Holiday in what I believe was a real staple game for Drew Holiday. The intensity, both on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball, in which his effort was there. The shots were falling. I thought he was getting into the paint. You saw a nice, healthy, happy medium between, 6 shots in the paint and 2 and 5 shots from 3, which again, from Drew Holiday, any offensive production you can get from him is a plus. And again, the Celtics are succeeding when he is producing offensively, Seamus. But Drew Holiday, I want you to talk a little bit about how he was so able to succeed in tonight's win.
Well, I believe at the end of the game, it was more Derek White and Jason Tatum being very aggressive. And in the middle portion of the game, this one could have gotten really out of hand for the Celtics if it weren't for Drew Holiday. And that's just a fact in this game because Drew Holiday, in moments where the Celtics were completely failing at taking advantage of mismatches on the floor, the New Orleans Pelicans certainly handed the Celtics some mismatches throughout the night. CJ McCollum, anytime he's out on the floor, you want to go out and attack him. And I thought there were moments the Celtics just completely missed that mismatch, yet they were attacking it with Drew Holiday. And it was really Drew Holiday's aggression alone attacking McCollum and attacking other players on the floor and going towards the rim. Rob, you mentioned it, 6 shots inside the paint tonight and 5 3-pointers, and he was super efficient with his looks. Drew Holiday, I thought, at a point in this game, was the Celtics' best player. I really did. And of course, later in the game, we're going to talk about Tatum. We're going to talk about Derek White. But Drew Holiday certainly had a massive impact midway through this game, I thought, keeping the Celtics within range and not letting it get too out of hand. And I touched on this a couple of post games ago, but I want to retouch on it about the Celtics. This is what happens when you have so much talent on your roster. Look at league talent. You don't have this kind of player in Drew Holiday slotting into the third best, the fourth best slot on a team and essentially needing to do what a third, fourth, or fifth best player does on any given night. And Drew Holiday, for him being in that slot with the Celtics, and of course Kristaps Porzingis being out right now, so that kind of alleviates some opportunity for some other players, including Drew. Him being in that slot, that's what makes the Celtics ultra elite, because other players in the league, you have legitimate, he's your fifth best guy, he's your fourth best guy, slotting into those numbers. But Drew Holiday could be the second best player on a team. He could be the third best player on a team. In fact, he's the fourth or fifth best player on any given night.
On a championship team, too. Remember that, exactly. On a championship team.
And he can come in and have a performance like this where he's affecting the game so profoundly in the middle of it. Other teams don't have that luxury to their rosters where they have that player who can dominate a game midway through a game where I think, should I spoil the player of the game right now, Rob? Because
hey, go for it. Let's hear it, Seamus.
So our player of the game tonight, I'll pull it up too. Our player of the game tonight is Jason Tatum, but I'm actually going to pick on Jason Tatum first, and then I'm going to explain why he was good tonight, because Jason Tatum, I thought during moments of this game, he was forcing opportunities. He was forcing shots. He had 7 turnovers on the night, but that fourth quarter was quite the different story for Jason Tatum. Let's just put it that way. But we were talking about Drew Holiday on a night where Jason Tatum maybe isn't the most optimal out of the 3 of the 4 quarters. He can take over a game, but Drew Holiday is not our player of the game tonight. It's Jason Tatum because he had 28 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 blocks. He was 10 of 18 on the night, shot 6 of 7 from the free throw line, and 2 of 8 from 3, unfortunately. That one's not exactly a highlight stat, but Jason Tatum was phenomenal in that fourth quarter, and we could easily say Drew Holiday was the player of the game tonight for some of his efforts. But Jason Tatum later in the game, I don't think the Celtics win this game without him, guys.
Oh, no, for sure. And I think that even too, I want to give some flowers real quick to Jaylen Brown. And again, we're gonna touch on everyone. Right? We touched on Derek White, we touched on Drew Holiday, touched on Jaylen Brown, or Jason Tatum, excuse me. I want to touch on Jaylen Brown too, because he was, again, and he has just been so solid all year. And statistically, his numbers are down, but I really think his productivity has just been through the roof over the past really 2 months. Tonight, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, but 0 turnovers, guys. And again, Jaylen Brown, it feels like in situations and scenarios in which the Celtics aren't being aggressive and the Celtics are being lackadaisical offensively, Brown has been the man who has just felt like he is always being aggressive. He's the guy that has really kept this team, afloat at times. And as great as Tatum is, and as great as all these guys have been, I really think Brown has taken his game to another level. Again, if these numbers, this talent wasn't around him, I think you'd see his numbers, skyrocket up to 29 points per game. And offensively, he's that gifted, Ian. So I really, don't think Jaylen Brown should be underlooked at all.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the hardest. Wait. Let me disclaim this. Sorry, Ian. I don't mean to interrupt you. We'll go right to you, but this is the hardest team to do player of the game with, because after looking at tonight's game, it seems like it should be Tatum. Then it's like in the fourth quarter, it's like, can it be White? No, he had only 4 points the rest of the game. It's like, it could be Holiday. But then you start talking about Jaylen Brown. It's like, he had 0 turnovers. Jason Tatum has 7. But this is kind of the nice part about this team, is having so many guys that could just take away that player of the game every single night. But sorry, Ian, just wanted to interrupt that, because my goodness, our player of the game could be anybody tonight.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. I was going to talk about that because, like you said earlier, there's not many teams in the NBA that have a Drew Holiday, a Jaylen Brown, a Derek White, and a Jason Tatum all on the same team. There's not a whole lot of teams like that in the NBA. So having all of these amazing players on the same team, it's incredible, because any given night, one of them can go off, and there's multiple ways to win a ball game. And tonight, they needed everybody. They needed everybody, because the Pelicans are no joke. They might not have the best record in the Western Conference, but I would not want to face the New Orleans Pelicans in a playoff series if I was any team in the West.
No,
but when it comes back to Jaylen Brown, I mean, it feels like nobody ever talks about him unless he has a bad game.
Right. Literally,
you would expect a guy like Jaylen Brown, who, he's not putting up 30 points a game or anything, but he's still one of the better players in this league for a reason. He was third team All-NBA last year for a reason, and he's been playing pretty great for a long time now. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen like Jaylen Brown struggle for like a long period of time, and he's honestly been one of the more consistent players on this team throughout this entire season, which is kind of crazy to think about.
And something that I really think has been so impressive with Jaylen Brown is his ability just to consistently improve. It feels like every year since he's gotten to the league, really since that second 2018-19 year where he found himself on the bench and then back to the starting lineup, where he was kind of all over the place because the roles were so indecisive with the Celtics. But since then, every single year, this guy has improved on something. And you are seeing his level of playmaking just skyrocket this year. His ability to create and find guys has really been the impressive aspect to his game offensively. And then defensively, it feels like in those big games, those big moments, he's the guy that is being drawn onto the best perimeter player. And I love that, because at the end of the day, as great as Drew Holiday is at defense, really, is probably the best or the second best perimeter defender in the league. Obviously, I have a soft spot for Marcus Smart there, but that's a different conversation for another day. But a top defender in the league perimeterly, when you got your best player, one of your two best players guarding the other team's best player, that speaks volume to where the game goes. I think that brings an intensity and sends a message to the rest of the bench that, listen, if Jaylen Brown, who's making $304 million, right, over 5 years, all guaranteed, this man doesn't need to prove anything anymore, right? This dude is the highest paid NBA player in NBA history. Plain and simple. And this dude is still out there defending the team's best player, diving on loose balls, having that look in his eyes like, I'm going out and I'm getting it tonight. That sends a message. And again, that's something that came with the departure of Marcus Smart. That is why here at Celtics Talk Weekly, that's something that we really addressed, that the move hurt, but you were going to see that development from Brown and Tatum, where it's like, all right, tonight, I'm not losing this one. I'm going to be the guy that's going to take the best assignment. Because again, as talented as Drew Holiday is, and as talented as Derek White is, and as talented as Marcus Smart was for the Celtics defensively, it needs to be Brown and Tatum. And Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as well, but Jaylen Brown more specifically has taken on that defensive leadership of, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to stop your team's best player. We saw it against Minnesota with Anthony Edwards. We've seen it consistently. We saw it against Dallas, against Luka Doncic, where he was going at Luka all game long. We've seen it on both sides of the ball. And I think, again, we saw it today in his playmaking, his ability just to find guys. 7 assists, 0 turnovers, guys. For Jaylen Brown, a guy that was harped on and bashed on for not being able to use his left hand and being a turnover machine. This is not the first time we've seen it this year, where he's been producing at a very high level in the playmaking department and really, really not turning the ball over a lot, which has really been a downfall of the Jays, is their turnovers. And I thought he did a phenomenal job. I also thought Tatum did a good job. Saying 8 assists is nothing to underlook again. But when you have 7 turnovers alongside those 8 assists, it's less valuable. But Jaylen Brown was just, Jaylen Brown was just phenomenal.
I will say, hang on.
We're stripping
James. I do
have player of the game tonight. I'm sorry, folks. We've made a mistake. We're stripping Jason Tatum of player of the game. This is ridiculous. It's Jaylen Brown. Right. I'm sorry, 7 turnovers. That number is just way more stark on the paper than I really realized tonight. And I think we felt it in this game, really, especially early from Jason Tatum. I do want to talk about him real quick, aside from Jaylen Brown, because after stripping his player of the game away, I guess we have to explain why we're doing this and, write up a whole apology letter to the entirety of Celtics Nation that's in, Arial font and, all typed up.
Notes app apology
with our logo at the top. But essentially tonight, Jason Tatum, I thought, was forcing the issue a lot early on in this game. And he had a couple of possessions where he was essentially throwing the ball into tight spaces and to nowhere and to the defense. And you saw it with the 7 turnovers tonight and the 2 of 8 from 3. I thought he was forcing his shot for a good majority of this game at moments where the Celtics needed a better look. And those 2 threes did come in crucial moments. I believe one of them came in the 4th and one of them came in the 3rd during stretches where the Celtics certainly needed a bucket. And those were big shots. But the 6 other misses, they were all 4 shots, every single one of them. And I didn't feel like they came within the rhythm of the offense at all. And I think Jason Tatum, this is really a game where, folks, this man is ridiculous. When you put up 28, 10, and 8 on 10 of 18 shooting, and I can sit here and nitpick his game to the point where he legitimately, this is probably a bottom 25% game for Tatum, right? Bottom quarter game of the season for Tatum, despite his numbers. Think about the level he has to go to if he improves on these items. And if he doesn't turn the ball over 7 times in a night and is forcing a shot from 3 and takes 8 threes, and most of them are haphazard. I think later on in time, he can fix this. These are fixable things. The unfortunate part is we're seeing it consistently that he's not.
I do think the 7 turnovers aren't great, right? You don't want to see that. However, it shows me that it's something that he's working on. Because there were a couple of times, he had a phenomenal pass. I remember at the wing, shot clock winding down. He was working on Brandon Ingram, Derek White was in the corner. Zion comes over to kind of close the gap and make a wall on Tatum to prevent him getting to the lane. Tatum threw a quick beam to White in the corner for three. White obviously wasn't able to connect, but he does have the ability to do it. I do think tonight you're going to get some games where it's a high turnover game. I think a lot of them were just drives to the lane that he got stripped on because he, again, wasn't being aggressive. I think he was foul searching tonight, which is a tendency we've seen from him. But I mean, I don't know, Ian. I mean, I'm not too concerned about the 7 turnovers, but I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's that egregious, honestly. Right.
You don't think okay?
Let me
Winning
actually
fixes
explain.
everything.
Let me explain.
Winning fixes everything.
Let me explain. Okay, the 7 turnovers, yes, it's a problem. But how many times this season has he had these high turnover games?
Not
it doesn't
a
feel
lot.
like it's happened as often as it had in years past. So I'm willing to give it a pass, even though you still have to talk about it. You still have to say it's not very good. But I'm not going to say it's the end of the world because, I mean, obviously the Celtics still won the game. And that's pretty much all that matters in the end.
I think I have a different viewpoint on this because I just don't believe our stars can be putting up these kind of whimsical performances like this on every other night because I think Jaylen Brown has been quite consistent this season. I think his praise is well deserved. However, Jason Tatum, I think the intangibles in his game, I think moments where we see, the Celtics, they have an effort problem right now. The other team's on a run. They can't get back in transition. They can't score. I think a lot of that sometimes falls on Tatum and him not giving the full max effort that he can give because when he is not giving his full effort, it's clear.
But let me just jump in real quick
out on the floor because he's a Celtics
for sure,
player.
no doubt. And again, we've seen Dallas, Minnesota, when those two guys are at 100%, when they're go, this team is, I mean, it's clear as day. They're on another level. We've seen it. But again, Jason Tatum, the effort aspect, again, is something you want to see over 82 games. But quite frankly, it's not something I'm hardly ever going to highlight because I have no doubt, no concern in my brain that come April, this dude isn't going to be on go mode. I really don't. And again, this is a guy that he's consistently playing games. He consistently loves basketball. He's not sitting out games. He's always on the court. And the impact of Jason Tatum, I mean, Ian, you texted us tonight. This team fell apart when Tatum subbed out, word for word, and you've seen it. So I see what you're saying. 7 turnovers is a number you never want to see. However, first of all, it's going to happen when you have the ball in your hands as much as Jason Tatum does. You're going to have games in which you're turning the ball over. And I do think that, again, I don't disagree with you in terms of an effort problem. We've seen a couple games, Toronto, Denver. I think the effort problem wasn't super bad. I think it was more so of a missing shot problem. The Clippers, another game, an effort problem. I do think that's something that's worth highlighting, right, as an effort problem. But again, it's like, is that a problem that I think is going to show up in April in the playoffs? Not really. I don't think that's a problem that's like it's
not a problem that we think is going to show up, but if the consistency in the team not putting forth effort, especially earlier in portions of games, because I think we've seen this now consistently in the last 2 weeks of this month, where this team just kind of comes out and goes, yeah, we're just kind of making our way into this game. And most of these nights, like in December, we had a lot of nights where we were blowing opponents out. A lot of these lead trackers looked completely green. And yet in January, we'll have a couple in between against opponents we're supposed to beat, like, oh yeah, the Spurs, oh yeah, the Rockets. But then we face the Nuggets, the Bucks, the Pelicans. These are all better teams. And the Clippers, of course. I think the Clippers are title contenders definitively this year. All of these teams, we kind of just sit back and don't give our full force to them, I believe, on a lot of these nights. And these are the teams you have to set the tone early against. And I think the Celtics in the playoffs, if they want to be successful, they have to come out and set the tone early, especially at home.
Don't disagree with you. However, this has been the best first and second quarter team in the NBA all season long. All season long. They've been the best first and second quarter team. So I don't know necessarily if it's coming out the gate with energy. I think it's more so being able to complete a 48-minute game plan, because it feels like one quarter out of the 48, right, for 12 minutes, really 6 minutes, they're going to have a bad shooting stretch or something where it kind of goes wrong and the other team's going to make a go at it. Which again, it's basketball, it's a game of runs. But I mean, it feels like the past couple games, we've actually had some great third quarters, but it's like, well, the first quarter is the one that got us. And I don't think that's been a problem all year long. It's maybe it's something worth brief highlight. We can put a little star next to it, but
I think this is like a big highlight though, because it's the biggest problem with the team. Because I think the pieces are there. The team,
let me ask
a lot
you
of the
this:
time, is there.
this a
and it's really the engagement?
So you think
and the execution?
Because again, they've been the best first half team in the league all year long. So is the third quarter problem an engagement problem then that we've seen?
Depends what context you're talking about it in. But I'm talking about the recent stretch of games in which we're not exactly blowing teams out of the water. Like even last game, or sorry, not last game. Last game we sucked. We absolutely sucked at home last game. But I remember the game before that, it was kind of like, all right, we want to see more of this. We want to see more of this be put up. And what's happened is we're still talking about these situations where it's like, all right, 3/4 of this Pelicans game,
but
we were
again, I think
great. And I don't necessarily, I'm not saying it's right out of the gate, but I'm saying I'm actually would agree with you that it's intermittently in different places throughout the game where I believe the team becomes a little disengaged and just kind of goes into the movements a little bit when you have to go without everything with intent. And Jason Tatum was even talking about that in one of his post-game interviews during these past couple games, that this team does things at their best when they're doing things with intent. And I believe that in some of these moments, they're not, because they're too talented to allow a New Orleans Pelicans team who's running Najee Marshall and Dyson Daniels at us. Those players are fine. Dyson Daniels, I still think, is going to have a wonderful career in front of him. He's still a very young player. But this team shouldn't be manhandling us the way they were for 3/4 of this game before we woke up and finally played Celtics basketball in the fourth quarter and luckily saw some shots go down as well. I think this team has another engagement level to go to. The only path of leeway that I'll give the Celtics right now is that it is January and that they have played pretty well this entire season. And we could easily see, as the All-Star break rolls around, they come out of All-Star break, we want to go into that stretch strong and then come out strong off the 2 weeks rest, because easily chalk it up to the time of year. You could. It's right after the holidays. And after
this is the dog days of the NBA season. This is January through February. But again,
things have to turn around regardless.
For sure. Eventually. Don't disagree. I think, and so this is something that I think we're aware of entering January, that this could be a tough month for the Celtics. It's something I even said. You can go back, dating back to the beginning of the late December games we were talking, was you got a lot of back-to-backs, a lot of travel. I think this 2-week stretch where you're at home is going to be great for this team. Great for guys like Drew Holiday and Kristaps, who get 2 weeks to live in Boston, which they have not gotten since they've gotten here. So I agree. Something I do want to say, Joe Mazzulla, great, phenomenal game tonight. He called a timeout at a point in that fourth quarter that turned this team's energy around. I don't know what was said. I'm not in the huddle. But again, that's why you want to see Joe. That's why we harp on him so much, right? Because getting the chance to sit down with your team and get them going, which he has the ability to do, he's done it before, is big time. And I give credit to Joe tonight, because there was a timeout right in the, I want to say, 7-minute mark of this fourth quarter, 6-minute mark, that he took when Boston went down by, I believe, 7 points after a Brandon Ingram bucket, called a timeout, and then they came out with intent and purpose and effort. So I don't disagree with you. You can see, I think the Celtics team has a real problem. At some point in the game, there's going to be a 6-minute stretch where they're like, okay, we're good. I think we can kind of coast through the rest of this game. However, I don't know how worried I am in terms of it being a playoff problem. Something definitely worth noting for sure, though. I won't disagree with you. It's been highlighted. I mean, the third quarters have been the biggest highlight on the Celtics team throughout the course of where are we at? Game 46 now. That has been the biggest, or 30, that was 47. It's been the biggest highlighted thing. But I do think the comeback effort showed me a lot from this team, because it's not every day where you come out, and Pelicans are a good team. I do think they have but New Orleans got some execution problems. I thought they were pretty bad down the stretch, but I do credit Boston for, the ability to put pressure on them and, make them make great plays. But tonight, someone I do want to talk about. I want to talk about the bench. Two guys in particular: O'Shea Brissett, Sam Hauser. No Luke Cornett, no Kristaps Porzingis. You saw more Kaida and Brissett tonight. I loved what I saw to O'Shea. I mean, it's no surprise. It's a guy that he's doing exactly what we expect him to do. Stat line wise, nothing special. Even in the plus minus, only a +2. But there were a couple offensive rebounds, man, and defensive rebounds that he grabbed that I really think helped set the tone. Real energy guy. And then the other guy I want to talk about is Sam Hauser. I thought he kind of finally had a game in which he was able to kind of get his footing back under him. He's had a rough couple stretch this January. Again, when you're a shooter, this is the dog days, man. Your legs really aren't there like they were back in November and December, where you're kind of the prime shape of your season, right? You don't have that all-star break. You got training camp and then a month of kind of easing yourself back into the NBA season where you hit that stride through November and December, and then January and February, your legs start to go, and then you get the break, and then you come out and you're a little bit more energized, and the playoffs are rolling around, and then you kind of lose them back in May. But Hauser, guys, this is a guy could be big time for the Celtics. We talk about Moneyball. This guy's the ultimate Moneyball player for the C's. He's making $2 million. His production level can be super, super high. What did we like from Sam tonight?
I mean, he hit his shots. That's
right.
Pretty much what it comes down to when it comes to Sam Hauser when we talk about him. And like we said before, he's been struggling, it feels like, for like a month and a half now. It just feels like he cannot hit a shot to save his life. Right. And I mean, like you said, it's something that happens when it comes to shooters. Sometimes they're just not going to go in, but tonight they were going in, which was nice to see. But I'm not going to lie, I'm still a little nervous about him and the bench moving forward.
Bench. Yeah,
I'm still nervous. I'm not going to lie, if there's a trade out there that involves Sam Hauser, I don't think he should be untouchable. I think
right.
If the right trade is out there to get somebody that could improve this team, I think you definitely need to look at Sam Hauser as somebody that could potentially be on the block.
Yeah. Again, I'm not super sold on selling Sam because, again, you're with this team and the financial situation they're in, you have to do such ballerina dancing to make a move financially that $2 million that he's owed is such like a whatever you can give us is a positive. I do think the bench it's been again, when you pull Kristaps out of the lineup or you pull one of those top 6, it gets really thin. The hope is that by playoff time we will be healthy enough to not have that problem. But again, you're gonna see. I do think Brad makes a move. I don't know who it's for. I don't know what the type of level of player he's gonna do. But I mean, I do think that when you're trying to chase a championship, as talk about highlighted things, something that's been highlighted, the bench, man, they've had some great games that I can remember, but some of them have been a little bit more on the rougher side. Tonight, I think it was like a middleman where they honestly, they weren't bad. I thought they did their job, quite frankly. I think this is what the Celtics bench needs to do. You got one guy giving you 11, you got one guy being an energy guy, and then you got Pritchard and Kaida who are just making the right play when they need to. Because you don't really need too much more. I've said it all year. You don't really need like this uber score like a Malcolm Brogdon to come off the bench with this team because of the offensive firepower you have in the top 5. But I don't know, Seamus. I don't know where you're at. I know we've thrown around some names. I don't know if this game really moved the needle for you on your opinion, but
I guess it can't move my opinion on Luke Cornett. It can't move it. It can't move it. I mean, it maybe moved it more positively because, I mean, come on, Jonas Valanciunas versus Luke Cornett tonight. That would have been a nice matchup to see. Or Kristaps Porzingis and Jonas Valanciunas.
By the way, about Porzingis. Matchup. Hang on. About Porzingis, he did post on Instagram. He is coming back tomorrow.
Nice. Rob is in the midst of, I'm watching a replay here. He's in the midst of some technical difficulties right now. He'll be back any moment. But I think, right. I think this is always we got it. We're good. Rob took care of it. Rob took care of all the graphics. We're good right now, guys. But essentially, the Boston Celtics tonight. What were we talking about, Ian?
We're talking about the bench. What's your opinion on the bench right now?
Oh, right. And you said Kristaps Porzingis is coming back tomorrow, and I'm excited because I think he would have been nice in this matchup tonight. Now I'm glad that he took off 2 games in a row. He doesn't need to put more stress on that ankle. He absolutely doesn't need to do that at all. And I'm actually going to go through Ian here some while Rob is gone. Might as well go through some breakdowns if you want to go through some breakdowns with me here, seeing if Rob can get his technical difficulties under control here. But little interruption in the show, but we're gonna move on along here. Kristaps Porzingis delivered the news to y'all that he
I'm
could
back.
be. Oh no, he's back.
I'm back.
He's back.
I don't know if you saw that. My mic just absolutely fell onto me.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it before you came back and
I'm not
confirmed
ashamed.
it.
I'm not ashamed.
I saw something. I have our broadcast on. I kind of looked to the side over here, and I saw something fall in your screen, and I was like, I mean, we might have physical injuries.
No, we're
right
good.
now
No, we're good. But no, I like this. Let's because again, this is something new we want to do. Some film breakdown, Seamus. I want you to take us through kind of some things, some plays you liked. Maybe it's something you didn't like tonight with the Celtics.
All right, I'm going to try to go through these as efficiently as possible. We got to get the glasses
We have to have a theme
because...
song for Seamus's film breakdowns.
Yeah,
if anyone wants to
I
make
don't want
a
to throw
theme
one
song
up
for
right.
Seamus's
Feels
breakdowns,
like it might completely tank the broadcast if I threw one up right now. It might just cut off all of our audio. But here's the first play that I have up on screen. We did this last post game is probably less quality, but we'll see how this one goes. This is early in the game. This is first, second quarter, first half. And the Celtics, this is kind of what I'm talking about in terms of their disengagement of the game. I want you guys to look at Jason Tatum right here. Okay, Jason Tatum, look at where his eyes are and look at how he's standing. Okay, does that look like an engaged defensive stance? Yes, he's kind of leaning over and help, but he's just standing essentially straight up and down, not really paying attention to the play at all. And what's happening over here is Trey Murphy, he acts like he's going to go set a screen to Brandon Ingram over here. And I wish I had a mouse. And he's the one kind of cutting towards the lane right there on Drew Holiday, right? Trey Murphy, that's him. Should specify that. He's acting like he's going to set a screen on Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram's going to come up and get this ball. Well, he completely fakes the screen in this situation and slips it, going all the way to the bucket, and Herb Jones makes that pass over the head of everybody. And Tatum, he's completely late to react on this play, and it's an easy, wide open attempt at the rim for Trey Murphy, and he converts a bucket on this. And this is really part of the Celtics engaging themselves defensively, being in good positional defense, in good help, and also paying attention and engaging themselves into the play. That was early in the first half. And this next play I'm going to bring up here, there we go. So this one is also in the first half. And so far, like this possession, it's okay right now. It's okay. It's still salvageable at this point in the possession. Okay. Jaylen Brown's feet, he's at a terrible position on the floor right now. His feet are pointed towards the bucket, and Brandon Ingram is obviously driving towards the bucket. So Jaylen Brown, he's in a position where Brandon Ingram, he's going to cross him over right here, and Brown is going to be going towards the rim still, and he's not going to be able to position himself back to Ingram. But the problem is that Brown gives up on this play so much, right, that instead of the Celtics being able to viably cover this play, look at where Jaylen Brown is on this next screenshot. Jaylen Brown completely gives up on this play, kind of trips down into the lane, but doesn't really make an effort to get right back into it. And you see 3 guys converging on Brandon Ingram, except Brandon Ingram doesn't make this shot. You know what he does? You see that player streaking there to the corner? Now, I actually can't. It's so blurry, I can't
Trey
tell
Murphy.
That's Trey Murphy.
On screen here. Trey Murphy, who is one of the best three-point shooters in the league, right? The Celtics have help right there with Drew Holiday, except Drew Holiday, what he's doing? What is he doing right now? He is defending Brandon Ingram because where's Jaylen Brown? Defending absolutely nobody under the rim after he got cooked by Brandon Ingram. And that pass, all of a sudden, and that play in that corner 3 is wide open for Trey Murphy. And Brandon Ingram, he makes that pass perfectly, and the Pelicans are able to convert a bucket. And that's kind of the effort and engagement of the Celtics defensively in the first half that I saw. These are just two examples. I even had that play up on my Instagram where Tatum, he essentially was just jogging back defensively and allowed a wide open corner three Herb Jones bucket in the first half. But those were some of the problems happening for the Celtics in the first half. Now, fortunately for the Celtics, we have a lot more to look at for the fourth quarter. This one came late in the fourth quarter. Now, on this play right here, Herb Jones, he gets the ball he's actually driving right here. He drives into the middle of the paint. So the Celtics actually allow Herb Jones to get into the paint. And he kind of has an option over there in the corner. And the entire team isn't exactly in the picture here, as you can see. But Herb Jones does have this pass. The Celtics are kind of in a bad spot here, but still in good positioning to recover and make a great defensive play here. You progress this along. Sorry if it's a little. So the Celtics, Al Horford comes from the back. We saw him on. Let's go back to this screen right here real quick. Al Horford, you see him coming from the back right here. He completely blows this play up. Completely. Look at that. He's done. Okay. And Jaylen Brown, look at what he's doing. Recovering. Okay. He's recovering quite well to the corner there. And Al Horford completely blows this play up. And progressing it along, it becomes a 50-50 ball here. It becomes a complete 50-50 ball after every player. The ball pretty much pops into the air. Okay, so Al Horford comes from the back, blows the entire play up. Ball pops into the air. Derek White bats it out. And look at Tatum. This is our superstar right here. This is our superstar. This is superstar versus superstar right here. Brandon Ingram versus Jason Tatum, one-on-one for the ball. And Jason Tatum, he doesn't have the inside track, but guess what happens? Guess what happens? He's off to the races. He's off to the races, and this is a transition bucket for the Celtics in the fourth quarter, created off of great awareness defensively and great engagement and great recovery and help. And also, I should mention earlier, because Jaylen Brown was able to help on this play, Al Horford was able to muck up that pass and completely blow up the entirety of the play. And moving offensively, because I did talk defensively about the Celtics here, offensively, the Celtics, this is just, eat them all day, Tatum. Tatum had the ball at the top of the key, one-on-one with CJ McCollum. And what was I texting you guys earlier in the game? The Celtics, they got to take advantage of the CJ McCollum matchup that the Pelicans are consistently giving them out on the floor. He's 6'2". They have to attack him. Well, Tatum, he switched on to McCollum right here. Notices there's no backside help waiting for him. And if there is, there's going to be a wide open Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown 3 on the wing or in the corner. What does he do? Drive aggressively, and this ends in a Tatum bucket, which is a dunk eventually. And the next player, too, we don't have the final result of the Tatum dunk. You guys just have to trust me on this one. But the next one, Derek White, he's doing the same thing. Notice his backside help. There's going to be none of it, and if there is, he's going to have an open corner 3 somewhere. And right here, McCollum actually does a good job of recovering on Tatum and taking away that pass. But White, he drives aggressively into Herb Jones. And this is the play where he kind of did that little spin move in the lane, that little dream shake, that little Hakeem Derek White dream shake in the lane and came up with the bucket. But this right here, this is what we want to see, aggressively attacking the open lane the Pelicans gave him right here in the fourth quarter. And moving on to the final breakdown here, this one really made the Garden go nuts. This play made the night, essentially. It was all over the highlight reels. It was everywhere. Jason Tatum, he's on McCollum again, like I mentioned, got to be taking advantage of that matchup. CJ McCollum is about 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in there. We have no idea how tall any of these NBA players are, but we can figure out their ranges. Jason Tatum is either 6'10" or 7 foot. We have no idea, but we know the discrepancy that exists right there between those two guys. And Herb Jones recognizes this too. And what is he doing? He doesn't care about Derek White right now. He doesn't care. He's going over to help. He sees that. He's going, look at that mismatch I have on this end of the floor. I got to use my length and my awareness right now to go over and help this. And what does Jason Tatum do? Well, he doesn't force the issue, and he makes the correct pass, the correct play. He drives the lane. Both guys crash to him. And look how many guys are looking at Tatum essentially right now. 3 guys, basically all 5 guys are looking at him. And you have Derek White wide wide open for three on the wing. And that is a lot of what the Celtics in the fourth quarter were doing. They were aggressively driving the lane, attacking mismatches, and finding open shots and opportunities for themselves, whether they were coming on the perimeter or at the bucket. Because I think we saw a lot tonight that the Pelicans in some of those fourth quarter plays, they were giving them the bucket. Go ahead and shoot that shot. But if the corner three is there, if the Pelicans are giving up that opportunity, right, that play would have been there as well for the Celtics. And their execution, I thought, late in this game was superb. However, we saw in the earlier portion of the breakdowns there that the first quarter, the first half, the second quarter, that range of the game, they were not engaged correctly defensively. Yet later in the game, they were, and especially offensively, they were way more aware of the mismatches they had out on the floor and the effort in attacking them too. I want to see this team do what they did in the fourth quarter every single night, because that is their true capability.
Right, and that's what's been so important, and something we've talked about, I feel like, is in regards to the 3-point attempts. It's not not necessarily the amount of attempts we're looking for. It's the looks that we're getting, because this team has the extreme benefit of having that paint so open. You don't have a Jonas Valanciunas sitting in the paint. You don't have an Andre Drummond, or you don't have someone just taking up space in the paint. You have a guy that can really, and Kristaps and even Al Horford, space this out. You can leave that paint so open, which forces teams into help, and which forces teams to play, a little bit. You got to give up one. Are you either going to give the Celtics the open layup or give the Celtics the open threes? And obviously, statistically, you'd rather give up the threes. So it's the key to the Celtics is, what type of 3-point shot are we taking? Where is it coming from? A Jason Tatum isolation three really statistically is a terrible shot. He shoots right around high 20% off that isolation 3-point pull-up shot. What is an efficient shot is a drive and kick out from a Drew Holiday to a wide open Jason Tatum, who is standing at the 3-point line, able to take his time, set his feet, and knock down the shot. Tatum's a 40% above average 3-point shooter off standstill, catch and shoot open shots. The guy we saw him succeed in the first 2 years of his career from behind the arc at such a high level, because obviously the volume wasn't there, but the looks were catch and shoot. You hardly saw Jason Tatum, sidestep three. That was something that came into later on in his career. So again, 46 threes tonight from Boston, but I think the looks we were getting in that second half, specifically in that fourth quarter run, were really, really different than what we were taking in that first quarter. And I think, Seamus, first of all, you did a great job breaking that down for us. And that's what's so important with this team is, right, it's not about, oh my God, you took 42 threes tonight, Boston, what are you doing? It's not, you took 42 threes and 30 of them came from 0 looks inside the paint. When we say get to the rim, drive to the rim, it's not drive to the rim and take every layup, take every contested layup. It's drive to the rim to collapse the defense, to then you can kick out to a standstill shooter like Jaylen Brown, like Drew Holiday, like Sam Hauser, like Al Horford, who are all phenomenal catch and shoot standstill guys. The Celtics' problems come when their mindset is, let's just shoot some threes tonight. And if they fall, we're going to blow these guys out. That's why you saw us blow out Miami, because there's going to be games where those catch and shoot threes from the wing are they're hitting. They're knocking them down, right? This team's got shooters. They'll fall, sometimes. But when you got the luxury of having that paint so open, that paint is so wide open. And I'll tell you what, it's something that, really jumped forward and jolted Giannis's career, was the addition of Brook Lopez, which opened up the paint for him. So again, the Celtics, don't be looking at the number of threes we've taken. Really take a second and watch the game to see where the threes are coming from, guys, because I do think tonight, first half shot selection, bad. Second half, getting downhill, attacking the paint, good.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not like one of those things where it's like, you have to do this, but like if you watch the Nuggets play basketball, that's pretty much most of their game is just getting to the paint. You have people that can cut to the rim. You got people that can stand in the corner and shoot. I mean, that's kind of what the Celtics could be doing and probably should be doing with their game. And yeah, you guys kind of hit everything on that. So there's not
Right,
really much to say else about it. I mean, you guys kind of hit on everything. I think the more you cut to the paint, the more opportunity you have on a guy like a Derek White or a Tatum or a Brown cutting to the rim when it comes to getting to the paint. And that's what we were talking about Drew Holiday the other day and how he
Right.
always is able to fill up the stat sheet. Like that's kind of, the role that you would like to see the Celtics play, but I don't know.
It will be
I just don't
interesting
think
to
it's gonna happen
see.
that way.
It'll be interesting to see how they come out tomorrow night. Team, we've been pretty solid on back to backs, right? A traveling back to back is much harder than a home back to back, right? You get to go home. These guys are sleeping in their bed. They're waking up. Their routine's pretty much the same. It's just another game day, right? These guys could play 2 games in a row, unless you're at Horford or Kristaps, because you got to manage some guys. But it's nothing too difficult for this team, especially this game didn't go to overtime. This game wasn't necessarily super physical. It really was just a regular season game. It didn't have a really playoff feel to it. So it'll be interesting to with Indiana coming in tomorrow night, which is a very fast paced, high energy, high motor team. You potentially have Halliburton coming back. It'll be interesting to see how we, kind of match up in stack up against the Pacers, who, there's some bad blood running through really the Pacers in the entire East. They're going after everyone. You get to see, I believe Siakam's playing. It'll be our first look at the Siakam and Halliburton led Indiana Pacers, the league's first look at it. So again, tomorrow night, I'm very excited for because I do think that it should be a good one.
We faced the Indiana Pacers 5 times this season. 5 times, and it feels like all 5 times they've looked like a little bit of a different team each time. Just a little bit. There was one occasion without Halliburton. There was one occasion with Halliburton. There was another occasion without Porzingis we didn't have. There was another occasion without Halliburton. Now they have Siakam. So the Indiana Pacers, this matchup, despite us playing a team 5 times in a season this might be the first time ever. Just going to go out and say that. I don't see a scenario where we would have played a team 5 times unless in the 82 game schedule format. Okay, let me add that, because maybe back in the day when there were 8 teams, 9 teams, maybe we played a team 5 times. But the Indiana Pacers, this might be the first time we see a team 5 times in a season. And yes, they are coming to the Garden tomorrow. But I want to jump back on what we were talking about in terms of the team driving the lane, kicking out to shooters, and essentially collapsing defenses. Every team in the league is on that trajectory right now. And Ball Don't Stop had a little bit of a nice argument against the analytics yesterday. I thought that a lot of analytics junkies have made their way into the game, and the efficiency aspect of basketball, you can quantify pretty well every movement that happens on the floor down to a pinpoint accuracy, to where you can make certain subjective inferences off of what data you're getting. And I believe that a lot of the tracking data that's been introduced in the last decade has affected the game mightily. I mean, it's clear. Look at the 3-point ball, look at the pace. Clearly, teams understand that if you don't crash the offensive glass, you play with pace, and you shoot a lot of threes, that's ultimately the most efficient way to play basketball. And it's not only that, it's within what you're trying to do. You're only trying to take layups and corner threes and maybe a top of the key and a wing 3 every now and then, because every other shot just simply is not as efficient of a shot as a layup or a corner 3. And in today's game of basketball, Ball Don't Stop had the argument of, it's getting a little boring. It's getting a little boring out here thinking every single team should be running in this manner. I do want to see some more diversity from more NBA clubs out there, where if you do have certain levels of efficiency elsewhere on your team, which I do believe the Celtics, there are some moments I look at the Celtics and go, this offense is good. It's kind of bland. It's kind of bland from the standpoint of we don't maximize the potential of our players and their offensive skills, because O'Shea Brissett, he's a tremendous cutter, and he is not somebody who, in my opinion, can be handling the ball ever. He's just clearly not that level of offensive player. And he's somebody we could be using as a cutter a lot more. Now we don't. And when we do, he's fantastic. And I believe that goes for a lot of teams in the NBA, where you have certain guys with certain aspects of their game that you can maximize, whether it's usually offensively, defensively, it's about matching of another conversation. But offensively, in terms of scoring points efficiently, I do believe there are a lot of players out there who kind of are left to the side because their game is not, oh, I can't get this layup right here, or I can't get this corner three. And that's the most efficient shots in the game. And those are what teams are looking for. And say if a player, they have that elbow mid range, or they're good from, say, 10 to 15 feet out, like Bam Adebayo is near the free throw line, somewhere near there. If they're good around that area, a lot of those players aren't really being maximized and are really just being set aside within the game of basketball in certain moments. And we do see players on rosters where we go, oh, this player can't do this, can't do that. But all of a sudden you look at it and go, well, are they maximizing this player to their full potential? Right. Exactly. And that was really part of his argument yesterday, is that a lot of teams are very bland in that sense of, yep, we're getting downhill, we're getting to the bucket, we're either trying to get a layup, and if we can't get that, we're trying to get the corner three. If we can't get that, we're trying to get a wing three. And that's just the most efficient way to play, looking at the numbers and how you quantify basketball. But I do agree there's some extra level of nuance to the game of basketball that can be achieved, I believe will be achieved one day within the statistics and the advancement of advanced tracking data as well. But for now, I do believe we're in a league where it's breaking down the film. It's just getting downhill, getting into the corner.
You got to be able to read the game and adjust accordingly, because I'll tell you what, if you're one of those coaches that strictly works on data and analytics and sticks to your point and will never adjust, you might end up like the Detroit Lions, because quite frankly, you got, I think the whole world got a sense and put front and center as to what happens when you cannot adjust accordingly to what is going on in the game. And I won't lie, I got a little scared, because I was like, oh God, is our coach like that? Oh, is this something Joe Mazzulla would do? And again, it's two different sports, two different things, but you saw it, live and in person. If you were watching the NFC title game, a couple times where field goals and points being put on the board can really affect the outcome of a game. Something that was, so talked about in George Kittle, again, football. We're not a football show here, but it's an example. Because sports are sports. Kittle was told that momentum isn't a real thing, right? That most analytical guys don't believe that momentum is a thing. That's so far from the truth. Momentum and being able to stop momentum, stop bleeding, especially in basketball. It's so fast paced. I mean, basketball is a game of momentum. It's a game of runs. Who can shift and hold the momentum for a big part of the game? Such a big aspect of basketball and being a road team is being able to take the fans out of the game, because fans help teams get momentum. They help teams play with pace. They help teams play with energy. They help teams, even knock down a shot. The fans help. So something that I do want to see from Boston, and again, you want to think about it, something that's back in your mind, is, can we adjust accordingly during the game? Because Detroit Lions, man, I'll tell you what, when you got a point, when you're an analytical guy, when the analytics tell you got a 65% chance to get this 4th and 2, the analytics don't tell you that you're up by 14, and a field goal would make it a 3-score game opposed to a 2-score game, and would allow for the opportunity for the fans not to celebrate a big time 4th down stop for the defense, right? Again, different sports, but the idea and the theory is there, right? Whether it's not calling a timeout, whether it's not adjusting a matchup, whether it's not attacking a weak point that is exposed early on in the second quarter, it's the same thing. It's the same aspect that, yes, these analytics tell us a lot about how to attack the game, but when the tip-off starts, analytics are essentially out the window, because whatever happens, analytics can't predict. And that's just where I'm at with that. I don't want to go on a ramble, because quite frankly, that's, but again, before we close out, guys, last thoughts, last words, what you got for me?
Go ahead, Ian. I'll jump back on the analytics when it comes back around to me.
Okay. Joe Mazzulla after the game today, he said, this was Joe Mazzulla on the Celtics overcoming a 17-point deficit. He says, I just hope it happens 10 to 12 more times so we can get rid of the entitlement that we're always supposed to be winning. I hope we have to blow leads. I hope all that happens. I really do.
Whew. So he's I like essentially that. Backing up earlier that, we're saying, like, maybe every now and then the team comes in and just feels entitled that they're going to win. Feels right. Like, obviously within that statement, of course, he believes that is certainly the case, because why would you say that otherwise? But I believe the Celtics, when you talk about, Rob, the Detroit Lions last night, them obviously not going for field goals was the discussion for the analytics versus against the analytics. For the Celtics later this season, it'll be 3-pointers. It'll be, are you willing to consistently get downhill, attack, get to the free throw line, or are you going to be settling for threes? And ultimately, I believe this is why coaches exist. This is why coaches exist. Adjusting on the fly and not being a total robot to the analytics is certainly important, because yes, analytics will tell you about certain trends, certain streaks, and certainly give you win probability in moments where a certain situation is more optimal than another when you're not really too sure of it. But coaches should know their players more than anyone else in terms of their playing ability out on the court and field. Obviously, off court, that's a different story. But players should know their coaches more than anyone else. And the importance of a coach is to realize which factors are changing within the field of data, because there's going to be moments where you feel we got to keep taking these shots, or say in football, we got to keep forcing the issue, keep going for the fourth down, because if we convert here, we have a higher win probability. But if you understand that the factors within the nuance of the game has changed, because if you know your players more than anyone else, you can tell, like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Now, this is just for example, they don't have it tonight, right? We got to go somewhere else. We got to create something new offensively. They don't have it from beyond the arc tonight. We cannot scheme up 3-point shots for them from beyond the arc tonight, because they just simply don't have it mentally. Okay?
Right.
Mentally. And other players, you might go, this guy is hot tonight. We got to keep going to him. And he is forcing the issue while some of our other players have been mentally taken out. Now, obviously, I just used Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as an example, but coaches should know that level of their player to tell, this player can take over in this moment, this player can take over in this moment, or within a given situation against another team, they should be able to tell that in this moment, if we just convert here, yes, it might go against the analytics, but in the next moment, we're going to have a better chance to win. Because I do believe there are a lot of moments where a coach can tell a situation better than the numbers and win probability can, just a little bit. And I think, Rob, your point on the NFC title game last night is right there, because if you go up 17 in that game versus if you're up 14 and that 51-yard lucky pass happens, that's certainly a different game. That's certainly a different game.
And you kill momentum. You kill momentum. Momentum's real, man. Momentum is real.
And let's talk about what really momentum is. It's mentality. It's mentality. It's one team feels like they are better than the other team, while the other team doesn't feel like they're as great. That is what momentum is. And that's,
no doubt,
as a coach, what I'm talking about, figuring out the nuance of the game and who is mentally there, who is mentally not, essentially. And that is what momentum is in my mind. And to not believe in it, like numerically, I can see why one maybe wouldn't believe in momentum, but it's a human feeling. It's a human drawn, non-quantified thing.
I mean, and that's what makes Eric Spoelstra so great, right? He's not a super analytical guy, but he is able to tell what he needs to do in the moment, and that's what makes great coaches great. But again, guys, the Boston Celtics are able.
I do have a couple more things. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, man.
So the Denver Nuggets beat the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, which means the Celtics are now 4 games above the Bucks now in the standings. This was Doc Rivers' first game as the head coach of the Bucks. And currently, the Portland Trailblazers are beating the Philadelphia 76ers right now. And if the Trailblazers hold on, the Celtics will be 6 games ahead of them.
Real quick, again, I know not Celtics related, and I don't want to go on for, but to watch out for
people
those.
Love the conversation about our opponents. We can let it rip on our opponents for sure.
Watch out for those Knicks. Those Knicks, man, they could be gunning. You see the Sixers. You see the Knicks are closer to the Bucks in the Sixers than the Sixers are to the Celtics, or the Sixers and the Bucks are to the Celtics. The New York Knicks, man, this OG trade, I know they're Randall's sidelined for a couple weeks, which will be interesting to see how that goes. But You ask me who's the second best team in the Eastern Conference right now, who poses the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics? It's the New York Knicks. It's Jalen Brunson. It's Julius Randle. It's OG. It's Tom Tibbs. They got a squad. They're playing with a lot of heart. They're making some great plays. And I'll tell you what, man, as much firepower and as great offensively as Embiid has been, as great as Dame and Giannis are, I'll tell you what, the Knicks are coming for that Eastern. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, if you got to go through MSG, a lot of it depends on what Randall are we getting in the playoffs, right? A lot, but something tells me that Brunson, that Randall, that OG, they're cooking with gas right now, and I really think they can make a run at it.
Let's document this real quick because it's January right now. It's the end of January. I believe. What is the exact date? January 27th? Can somebody?
January 29th.
Oh, geez. Oh, my Lord. Okay, we're 2 days. We just lost 2 days of life, folks. Oh, no. January 29th, 2024. The biggest opponent of the Celtics out west is the Los Angeles Clippers, and the biggest opponent out east of the Celtics is the New York Knicks. At the beginning of the season, I certainly didn't foresee this, certainly not out of the Clippers. They didn't even have James Harden yet. And out of the Knicks, both these teams made trades. They made trades. The Harden trade, of course, went through. The OG Anunoby trade went through. I know they could be riding a little bit of goodwill right now, some fresh looks. Everybody's looking at them, but both of these teams are putting up numbers in terms of the win category right now, and both have played the Celtics this season numerous times. The Clippers, of course, just completely blowing the Celtics out of the water. The Celtics will have more matchups with the Knicks later in the season, but I think those two teams, I'm up on Denver. I'm still up on Denver. I think Denver, you still have to take out Denver to make it to the NBA Finals, but the Clippers and the Knicks may be the biggest opponents of the Celtics, especially from what we saw on Saturday at the TD Garden, and of course what the Knicks are doing. You mentioned, Rob, right now. I can't believe we're giving the Knicks praise on our post-game show,
those
but
Knicks,
that's just crap. I have to respect.
Okay, and I got one more thing. Derek White introduced the Celtic City Edition.
I saw that. The bucket hat. The bucket hat's tough. The bucket hat is tough.
Nice.
So again, guys,
Derek White bucket hat.
It was a big night for the C's because at the end of the day, they were able to rally back from down 17 at home against New Orleans Pelicans. The Celtics were avoiding what was going to be a 2-game or a 3-game home skid after starting off 20-0 at the TD Garden. They were able to rally back, like I said, against the New Orleans Pelicans, 118-112 behind it. Jason Tatum, 28-point, 11 rebound, 8 assist performance, alongside a Derek White 14-point fourth quarter that really jolted the Boston Celtics ahead of the Pelicans. The Celtics will be back at action tomorrow night at the TD Garden, facing off against the Indiana Pacers. You can come back here live after the final buzzer sounds for Celtics post-game show live. We'll have you covered here, guys. I'm Rob. Above me is my man Ian and Seamus. We just want to say thank you so much for taking your time out of your day and joining us live here, talking some basketball. And until next time, guys, go Celtics.